Dear Venerable Brother, dear friends in Dhamma, so we have come to the last question and answer session for this June Kalalgoda English Medium Retreat. So we have received a couple of questions and we will start the session with the written questions.
Avasarai Bante, we have received 4 reports today. Report number 1, Theruan Saranai, Venerable Swamin Wahansa. Referring to Dhamma sermon on non-established on consciousness. Sometimes listening to the things or people without giving any verbal comments, and sometimes not even mental comments are my responses. Can these situations consider as non-established consciousness?
It depends on your practice. I hope that you are already experienced what we are talking, already experienced unattached state of mind, say temporary release of mind. So if so you are simply matter of maintaining that state during this kind of an occasion, then we can say yes, fairly it is unestablished consciousness. But remember that now certain teachers have attributed, say, full form of unestablished consciousness to arahants. You know, if we consider the arahant's state of mind, so that is fully unestablished. The consciousness is unestablished and again unmanifested. That is what we call appatittita and anidassana. So before that, say before one achieve arahantship, so it is kind of arguable whether we are, say, a yogi, Vipassana yogi, who is able to maintain a mind which is, say, unassociated, means anisita, then not grasping, anupadana. So is it the same consciousness, unestablished consciousness, an arahant experiencing? So this is a little bit arguable. So because the point is, now say, if we consider typical yogi, suppose that he temporarily experience kind of a temporary release, some form of non-grasping state, unassociated state of mind. Still the potential is available in him for a grasping, because still he hasn't uprooted completely the raga dosa moha. So there's a potential for him to again go and bind with something, again go and grasp with something, again go and entangle with something. So there's a risk. So that's why it becomes kind of a temporary release. So still the potential for getting attached is available, to getting sort of involved, established is available. So therefore he is in a kind of a vulnerable state. That is why he need to again and again train his mind not to get attached. So that Buddha distinctly, properly explained that in the Mulapariyaya Sutta, telling the seeker, the trainee, so his duty is to minimize that proliferation. So always restraining himself not to do it. So mind is going and doing it, but he is trying his best to minimize it. So there's a beautiful term called ma-manyi, not marmite, it's ma-manyi. So means say when mind is going and trying to proliferate, when mind is going and trying to do some form of eye-making, mind-making. So he is restraining, don't do it. You have seen it, no, don't do it. Like you are restraining a little child. So our mind is like a child. So pataviya mamanji, patavito mamanji, pataving mamanji. So likewise it is very beautifully phrased in the Mulapariyaya Sutta. So the kind of a restrainment is there. So whenever mind is trying to get attached, so this trainee is trying to minimize it, reduce it and avoid it. So now assume that he succeeded in that. Again the mind is fairly free. Still the potential is there. Risk is still available. Till he completely eliminate asava and anusaya and ultimately become an arahant. So I feel it is fair to say when there is even the temporary liberation, temporary freedom of the mind, it is very much the unestablished consciousness that he is experiencing. So without telling that only the arahants are experiencing that, so therefore even a trainee who is capable of maintaining an unattached mind say, non-grasping state of mind, unassociated state of mind. So we can on the other hand argue, okay, yes, he is maintaining unestablished consciousness. He is maintaining unmanifested consciousness. But the point is, again, I can talk another way. Now if you see, say, Buddha's teaching, so it's a kind of a gradual purification. It's not an instant purification. It's a kind of a gradual process. Gradual purification, Buddha always mentioned. So that's why, I mean, if we discuss what you call Pansuddhovaka Sutta. So beautifully Buddha mentioned, you know, if you want to get gold, so you won't get pure gold immediately. So gold is mixed with so much of other dirt and available in a kind of a site, gold site, and then they go there and get some lump of soil, and then they are doing some kind of a filtering, so that all the large unnecessary particles are removed. Then they take another process using small filters, so that another level of large particles are removed, and then they wash it, and then they kind of boil it, and then they are going this kind of process again and again. So after that, several times of processes, purification process, then only they are getting even a kind of brittle gold. And after that, that brittle gold has to be converted into a very pure form of gold, so that they can prepare, say, jewelry or whatever it is. So it's a kind of a purification process that Buddha, as a simile, explained in the Pansuddhovaka Sutta, and he mentioned some similar process is there for the yogi. So you can see it's a kind of a purification process, gradual process. So therefore, if we consider even the mind, even today we discuss about sanya, various perceptions. Now we may be feeling that mind is now pure, no defilements. So that indicates that mind is not crowded with sanya, crowded with various perceptions or various marks. But maybe shades of that may be a little available. So likewise, I mean, it's a kind of a gradual process. Gradual purification is there. So, I mean, answer to this question, we can't directly say, yes, it is the unestablished consciousness. And again, we can't say it is not the unestablished consciousness. It's a kind of a gradual achievement, we can say. Yeah.
Report number 2, Theruvan Saranai Bante. This is about an experience I encountered during my meditation practice. In my sitting meditation, not very recently though, during Vedananupassana practice, generally there is a feeling of being, within brackets, a function of a body. Suddenly, for a second, that feeling of being stops. For a second, non-self, no being. Nothingness, no being happens. And again, the machine starts. It need to happen few times in one sitting. But it gradually faded away over time, and I did not have this experience for some time. But today again, with closed eyes, while I was listening to Bante's Dhamma sermon, I had the same experience for a second. Out of curiosity, I thought I should ask Bante today, is this some kind of nirodhaya, or is it something not worth of taking notice of? Please explain, Bante. Much merits, Theruvan Saranai.
So if you can little bit explain me further how you reach there, probably then, Actually this unestablished consciousness, unassociated consciousness, anissita, that means unassociated state of mind, non-grasping state of mind, nirodha, all are very same. So therefore, I mean, those are different angles that we are looking at the same experience. So nirodha basically means, I mean, in the ultimate sense, nirodha is the complete cessation of craving. So that is the best form. But here, before that, actually we can call kind of a nirodha, cessation, kind of a temporary cessation where whatever the conditioned phenomena that our mind is attached to, none of them are now available. Available in the sense mind is not attached to them, so that mind is in a kind of a state where his attention is not into something conditioned.
Yeah. Now, Bante, what I felt was now you feel, now you are being, I'm there being. So this is while I was meditating. That is
Right.
not today,
Right.
some time back.
Right.
Then I was on Vedananupassana. Then like suddenly now I'm contemplating my sensations.
Right.
And suddenly I go into nothing. Nothing means
Yeah, yeah.
I'm conscious, everything is there, but I don't feel a thing. I don't feel there is a being.
Correct.
Nothing.
Yes.
Then
yes.
again I
you feel,
the
start conscious,
starting.
being
It's
conscious.
like
Yes,
a
yes.
machine stopping and machine starting.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it happened. Now then I stopped Vedananupassana and
Correct.
I went on with different kamatan, and
Yeah.
then today I experienced that again.
Same thing.
Now yes, now I didn't meditate or anything. I was just having my eyes closed and listening to Bante's sermon.
Yeah.
And it happened. Then
Correct.
suddenly for a second nothing.
Correct.
So
Yeah, that's
is
why
it?
I mean that kind of a nothingness, that kind of where you don't have any object to be conscious, it can come in many directions. Say while you are doing Kayanupassana, it can come. While you are doing Vedananupassana, it can come. While you are observing various thoughts and all the thoughts disappear, and it can come. Say you are observing any other sanya. So various sanyas there, various mental images are there, and you are observing them and assume that they all gone. Again that same thing can come. So the Nirodha can be experienced from many directions, not just one direction. So therefore, I mean, one day probably you may be practicing Kayanupassana, at that time you experience that, maybe 1 month ago. I am just giving an example. Maybe then assume that you are continuing your practice with Vedananupassana. So once all the feelings are calmed down and your mind didn't have any object to establish, again the Nirodha can happen. Later time, now assume that you are observing various thoughts, Chittanupassana, all the thoughts disappear, same thing can happen. So many directions are available, so but same result.
So but today tentatively I was listening to the sermon and then
it happened.
yes.
Good. So the thing is, interesting thing is, so if you expect something, it doesn't happen. So that is Buddha's teaching. I mean, how beautiful it is. See, I mean, how beautiful it is. So if you are craving for something, it is not happening.
Yes, I have
Then too much of expectations, and your mind is too much crowded, and I mean, stressful. But you simply let go, let me happen. Just you are just allowing things to happen. You just connect with the nature, just listening. Boom,
yes.
done.
Much Bhante.
Yeah.
So glad to hear.
Yeah.
Report number 3. Theruvan Saranai Bhante. Few thoughts occur in me after the Dhamma sermon yesterday. 1. Being a Sotapanna, householder Anathapindika, hearing such a deep sermon, why didn't he at least become Sakadagami even as a celestial being? Somewhere in Dhamma, I have heard Anathapindika and Visakha will have more than 7 births before they achieve Nibbana. Is it because the level of Kama Raga in them? As explained Bhante, Channa Bhikkhu Channa became Arahant at the time of death. Maybe with his past he would have maybe with his pain he would have eradicated Kama Raga Anusaya. Since Patigaya is a byproduct of Kama Raga, it would have been easy for Bhikkhu Channa to eradicate all Anusaya as well and become an Arahant. Just sharing my thoughts. Please correct my thinking if it is wrong. Thank you. Much merit.
Yeah, I mean, we can't give a kind of a definite answer. Thing is, different possibilities are there. Say, Bhikkhu Channa, on one hand, he has become a Bhikkhu because in one sense, he has done a great amount of renunciation. So I don't know whether this Channa and the Channa who was accompanied Prince Siddhartha are the same. Could be same. could be same. I don't know exactly. So anyway, I mean, if a person to become a bhikkhu, that means he has fair amount of renunciation. That is one aspect. And again, so he being a bhikkhu for many years, practicing, trying hard, that indicates fair amount of patipada practice that he was involved with. And it is not very well clear whether, I mean, when Venerable Sariputta was delivering the sermon, what was the level of Bhikkhu Channa at that time? So we can't say that he is an anagami because he has some kind of a domanassa. Because if he is an unreturner by that time, before he committing suicide, so we can't say he is an anagami because he has some kind of resentment towards the situation. He couldn't bear it. So therefore we can, on one hand, we can say he is not an anagami when Venerable Sariputta was delivering the sermon. On the other hand, so once Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahachunda delivered the sermon, so that sermon also very much like Anathapindikova the Sutta, exactly telling Venerable Channa to not to establish the mind. Nissitasa chalitang, anisitasa chalitan natti, chalite asati passaddi, passadya asati nati nohoti, natiya asati agati gati nohoti, agatiya gatiya asati na chutupapato nohoti, chutupapato nohoti, chutupapate asati neva ida na hurang na ubehemantre esevanto dukkasa. So this is the exact, the very essence of Dhamma that ultimately Venerable Chunda explained to Venerable Channa. So the form of liberated, the state of liberated mind. So that's a very strong Dhamma, like what Venerable Sariputta explained to Anathapindika. And there is an exception for Arahants. Remember that also. Now, if you can answer one question. Now, why for us as non-Arahants, committing suicide become kind of a sin? We can call it kind of an unwholesome deed. How about Arahants? If they commit suicide, what do you think? Is it an unwholesome deed? Now for us, if we commit suicide, so that means anyway we have kind of a resentment and we definitely have a next birth, right? How about Arahants? Yeah. So there is no self to commit suicide. Assume that they burn themselves. What would be their next life? No life. So therefore our vocabulary about the suicide is not applicable to Arahants. So if you can remember Venerable Dabbamallaputta, very interesting story. Venerable Dabbamallaputta is foremost in Kasina. So it's a very interesting story. He was assigned the duty of assigning kutis for monks, allocating kutis for monks. So what he did was, if a monk approached the monastery late time, so he attained kasina, the tejo kasina, and burned his little finger. Not burning, kind of somehow he prepared like a torch. And with that light, now he is accompanying the new guest monk to the kuti. So this has become kind of an interesting thing for the monks. So everybody coming to the monastery, they used to come at late. Always they are asking, I want to go to very far kuti. So and now Venerable Dabbamalla is accompanying. Now you can see how kind of very joyful monks. So they are getting the opportunity. Okay, now Venerable Dabbamalla is lighting his finger torch, and now everybody is accompanied to the very far kuti. Now the beautiful thing is, now he arrived his last moment, and now he go to the Buddha and he announced, Bhante, I have only a few moments less available. I am going to pass away, attaining Parinibbana. And then Buddha say, okay, Venerables, you mind your time. Then what he did was, he paid respect to the Buddha, circumambulating 3 times, and raised to the air. While being at air, he attained the kasina, burned his whole body, attained Parinibbana. And Buddha make a, udana, exclamation, kind of a exclamation. No, what's the term? Exclamation. For that incident, that how Dabba Malla Arahant passed away. So you can see, the committing suicide, that term does not apply for Arahants. So therefore we can say, when Venerable Channa passed away, could be as a Arahant he committed suicide. Because Venerable Chunda and Venerable Sariputta delivered very important Dhamma. Using that he was able to quickly attain Arahantship. And after that he found, okay, the body is really painful, no point of living further, committed suicide, done. We can argue like that. So there is a reasonable causes to assume like that. So other than thinking that he he tried to commit suicide, but after cutting, then he feel painful, and then that pain is used for further contemplation. After that he attained Arahantship. We can argue like that, but it's more reasonable to argue that because of the Dhamma sermon, that is very strong Dhamma sermon, he was able to attain Arahantship. So after attaining that, he found, no point of continuing the life, it is so suffering, let me die. And there is no rebirth, no problem. So therefore it is, we can't say the kind of a principle that we are talking to typical worldly beings about the suicide is applicable at the same level to Arahants. Yeah.
Report number 4. Pinwat Swamin Wahansa. All of us are deeply disturbed by present crisis situation where there is no fuel, petrol, diesel, gas, etc. Rich and poor all are affected. I presume this is a karma of committing a sin together by all of us. At the end of some good deeds, dana, sila, bhavana, by performing a satyakriya, will it help to reduce this crisis to some extent? If so, please advise how to perform. Thank you, Bhante.
So all together we will do a satyakriya and done. In one sense, actually, we have to admit that as people are deviating from the morals, virtues, so things are going down. So that is well explained in Dhamma. Now so during past, so there are people with long life. They are, if you consider lifespan, very, very long. And later they started lapsing certain precepts. Say they started using alcohol and all these things, then almost half of their lifespan reduced. Suppose they had around 40,000 lifespan, now it was reduced to 20,000. Now if you consider the Buddhas, within this Kappa eon there were 5 Buddhas going to have with the Maitri Buddha. So who is Kakusanda, Konagama, Kashyapa and Gautama? I think Kakusanda Buddha was arisen at the age of 80,000 years. During that time the typical lifespan is 80,000. Then Konagamana Buddha, I think maybe 60,000 or 40,000. Kashyapa Mahabuddha is 20,000 maybe, like that. So our Buddha is during that time 120 or maybe 100. So that's the lifespan. So this is how the lifespan is deteriorating. Nothing but because of virtues. So people are giving up the precepts, giving up the virtues. So half of their lifespan reduce. So therefore, so we are going in that declining side. We have to admit that. More and more people become like animals. They don't care about virtues. So ethics are abandoned. So more and more, so lifespan is reducing. Can't help. And on the other hand, later, Buddha mentioned, it may deteriorate to the level of 10 years. At that time, the just 5-year little boy is getting married to a 5-year little girl. So that is the life, that is the situation that we are going to face in the future. And later time, by the way, interestingly, so one level, at one time, they decided to, okay, let's stop this. Let's start going back to the precepts. Then they start practicing again the compassion and all these things, not killing. So the lifespan again doubled now. That means 10 becomes 20. Then let's avoid stealing. 20 becomes 40. Let's stop sexual misconduct. 40 becomes 80. So likewise it is growing again. So it fully dependent on our virtues. So therefore what you are telling has a value, because we are, as a society, as a whole world, as a human realm, more we become unvirtuous, immoral. So our lifespan and all the experiences become really harmful, and we ourselves are suffering. That is the situation. But on the other hand, if we are trying to protect, trying to be more ethical, virtuous, then the things are improving. So that is there. By the way, just by, but as a nation, if we are able to come back to the virtues, come back to the ethics, fair amount of possibility that, all are doing some good deeds, maybe meritorious deeds, helping each other and all these things, definitely have an impact. So, now, even to go to Anuradhapura, no fool, no. To do a satyakriya, probably you can do at your home. Just be mindful, keep your mind more into the, say, more virtuous, observe precepts, practice meditation. At the end of the meditation, probably you can wish for yourself and to everyone, may every being be free from suffering, every being free from say grief, say suffering and etc. So it can have an impact. And you yourself try to calm down. No point, because we getting burned means we are also adding to the same thing. To the same turmoil, we are adding our own part as well. So if we are calm, if we are able to maintain a very kind of a cool mind, so then we are not adding to the burning situation. So at least we are trying to, say, bear things. Even though we can't completely stop things, at least we are bearing things, not adding things, calming down. I feel that's the only way for the time being we can move forward. Yeah. So that's all the questions that we have received. If you have any more questions, we have more time. Oh. Uh-huh. Ah. I also have one. No, it's like a knife. So it's like a knife, because we can get the advantage of it, or we can burn ourselves as well. Everywhere the advantages and disadvantages are there, so we can make use of it. We can get the benefit of it, or we can use it to our own deterioration, to our own collapse, to our own downfall. Everything is like that. Now, say if you are using a laptop, so you can use, you can browse internet and go to all wrong sites, bad sites, and you can pollute your mind a lot. But on the other hand, you can use it properly for education purpose, and you can read the Dhamma and listen to Dhamma, and all these things are also available. Everywhere both sides are available. So how we are using it, how am I using it, really matters, depend on my own restrainment. So fair amount of restrainment has to be available. So if you are not maintaining fair amount of restrainment about the devices are quite passive instruments. How are we using it? really matters. But on the other hand, so that's why Buddha mentioned, say in Nibbedika Sutta, Buddha mentioned Yani Chitrani. What's that? There's a very beautiful verse there. Tittanti Chitrani Tatheva Loke Atetta Dhira Vinayanti Chanda. Now Buddha mentioned, now there are very beautiful, attractive sights, sounds, smells, all these things are available in the world. So they remain as it is, but the wise person, he restrains his mind. It is not that we have to avoid all these. Now say for example, say certain people, say certain women, assume that they are behaving wrong. They are wearing unnecessary clothes or whatever it is. So we can't say, you should behave like this, you should not wear like this and all blah blah blah. So that is one approach. And very much like we are trying to restrain the world, we are asking others to behave this way, that way, all these things. So that is one approach. But the different approach is, we can't correct the whole world. We can't make everybody to behave the same, similar, more polite, restrained manner. How about restraining my mind? That would be a achievable task. Achievable task is you understand, okay, my mind is still have the potential to get deluded, get defiled. So how about I am making myself a mind which is not possible to get deluded, not possible to get say defiled. So that would be an interesting thing. Then you don't mind even others behave naked, you don't mind, because you are quite protected. So that is the approach Buddha has taken. But he didn't deny about the restrainment. He didn't deny about the restrainment of the faculties. He really appreciated that, about the the Indriya Samvara. That's why even today morning I reminded that he deliberately mentioned, strongly mentioned Chakkuna Ropan Diswa no nimittak gahi nanu byanjanak gahi. So when you are looking at something, try not to take all the details, try not to take all the signs, shapes and etc. So if you take them, your mind get polluted. So likewise he advised monks especially to restrain the faculties. So that is also there. In terms of the restrainment, the sila, virtue side, but that alone is not enough. Then you have to go further on the Vipassana practice, so that even though your eyes are open and many vicious things are there to see, still because of your own practice, wisdom, available of the wisdom, the mind is not picking up any signs now. If that is possible, that is a kind of a good achievement. Yeah. Okay, if there are any other questions, then we can wind up the session. Fine. So today, we have some notices about sharing of merits. So yesterday breakfast and almsgiving was done by Dr. Rani Fernandu, right? Dr. Rani Fernandu, on account of her 72nd birthday in June. And then today, Sunday, breakfast dana by Dr. Dishna and lunch dana by Padma Jayawardena, to bless Venerable Bantes who are conducting meditation programs, Kalalgoda and Mitrigala, to transfer merits to late parents, brothers and sisters and relatives. May all beings attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. So those are the good wishes that we have received. And so with that, then we will wind up today's session. So all these few days that we were get together and practice to the best of our ability, and listen to Dhamma, discuss Dhamma, and with all these good activities we were able to accrue merits, and we share these merits with all the celestial beings, all the past day relatives, and whoever in need of merits. And let these merits help us also to attain path, fruition, Nibbana. While keeping these good wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavata amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya එත්තාවතාච අම්හෙහි සම්බතං පුඤ්ඤ සම්පදං සබ්බේ භූතා අනුමෝදන්තු සබ්බ සම්පatti සිද්ධියා එත්තාවතාච අම්හෙහි සම්බතං පුඤ්ඤ සම්පදං සබ්බේ සත්තා අනුමෝදන්තු සබ්බ සම්පatti සිද්ධියා ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ශාසනං ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු දේශනං ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු මම් පරං ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හුන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හුන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හුන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා සාදු සාදු සාදු